Alright, this court will be brought to order. I wish I had a gavel. Unfortunately, I don't have one. So this is you've got a gavel?
I do, yeah.
Can I have it?
Yeah, just give me next.
Oh, very good. Alright, so this is a special kind of case. It's brought forth by, I believe, by the BIA, with a defendant. I believe it's Officer Catchya. Is that correct? Or currently
Former
Mr.
officer, Your
Catchya?
Honor.
Currently Mr. Catchya. Is that correct? All right, thank you. And the defendant is going to be the police department, I believe. So, prosecution, if you don't mind coming forth, I should say plaintiff, come forth and introduce yourself and why you are here today.
Yes, this is Elisa Pern from BIA. Today we are seeking precedent get set in relation to powers of BIA. We would like expanded power to investigate morally questionable actions undertaken by police command in relation to the hiring and firing of police officers.
All right, very good. Thanking you. Have you had a discussion with the police department if there's any kind of plea deal or anything like that has been discussed, or is this just come straight to
We
court?
are seeking a legislative amendment, so there is no plea deal to be struck.
Very good. Excellent. Thanking you. All right, defense. I believe there's a lawyer there. Is that correct? If you don't mind introducing yourself.
Greg Jacobs for the defense, Your Honor.
All right. And in regards to the plaintiff wishing to have more power against the police, how does your client react to that?
The broad power we are not in favour of, especially the fact that the BIA is set up to investigating corruption, not just go on their own with unsubstantiated leads. If they are given a report, I agree that they should be able to investigate, but they shouldn't be able to just investigate and just watch over hiring and firing a police process. That is not their job. That's not necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. All right, so I was just going to check, is there any motions to strike on either side for any evidence within this case?
Negative, as all evidence on both sides is confidential and will be presented for the first time in court.
I see. Plaintiff, how many witnesses do you have?
We have 2 today.
2, excellent. Defense, how many witnesses?
When we are not we're 4 at the moment, but we
4.
may change.
It may change. Normally we allow 3 with a 10-minute per witness. If you have 4, do you mind if we do a bit of, or maybe 5, do you mind if we do a bit of a haircut on that amount of time, maybe 6-7 minutes?
Assuming that we're still able to enter the exhibits that were provided to Judge Flynn McCormick, we're willing to do that.
Evidence.
Which were agreed prior to trial that they were admissible.
Who was that agreed with?
Mr. McCormick.
That was within corrections and email.
Oh, I see.
Within emails, the qualifications will pass.
All right, thanking you. All right, we'll start with opening statements from the plaintiff, please.
Neat. All right, this is quite a simple case, really. Mr. Will Catchya was inducted on Sunday, the 12th of January. He was a cadet for exactly 6 days, which I understand is less than the required amount required for cadet. He was promoted on the Saturday, the 11th of January. Last Friday, he has instructed me he was terminated. There was no meetings beforehand. He was not providing with any sort of warning or anything like that. He is aware that sometimes in pursuits he might hit some other cars by accident, but he says it has never been an issue in his role as an officer. In addition, he has advised me that he has got compliments from other officers in relation to his driving. Unfortunately, those officers will not come forward to testify today as they do not want to risk their jobs. However, his position is that he was terminated for no reason. He is a good cop. He has put plenty of criminals behind bars in his time. And the only reason that the BIA can think of that a good cop might be terminated without any sort of reason is blatant corruption by police command. So if there is no reason for this termination, we are seeking potential corruption. But like I said, there is no charge in this charge sheet in relation to terminating an officer who has done nothing wrong for no fucking reason. Excuse my language. In terms of the witnesses we are calling today, of course, we are going to call Mr. Will Catchya to testify on what has happened in his mind. And also we have a witness here, Mr. Latrell Luciano, who I believe has been arrested before by Mr. Catchya and is willing to say that he does a good job as an officer. In terms of what we are seeking, obviously we're seeking a new charge in relation to the powers that we will be able to obtain. In addition, if possible, we are seeking the reinstatement of Mr. Catchya back to the police. And that is all.
All right, thank you, Ms. Penne. All right, Mr. Jacobs, your opening statement, please, sir.
Just before I start, I'd like to reference the Civil Law Act of 1882, Part 5. Clearly states employers may terminate an employee at will, which means an employee can end employment at any time for any reason. But it was not at will. During this case, it would be clearly exemplified that the complainant here had multiple complaints made against him by fellow officers due to the way he was behaving around members of the public as well as other police officers. The behavior was described as self-entitled, cocky, and arrogant. The reason for his termination was not for the way he drove, like it made it seem to believe. It was due to repeated behavior that was not rectified despite constant intervention by members of police. Members of police made constant effort to try and help realign this officer and get him right back on track. The police officers tried their best, and which will be exemplified through messages through emails in this trial, as well as testifying from members of the police command, as well as fellow police officers who will be able to testify their experience with what they've seen regarding the complainant here. As mentioned, Part 5 of the Civil Law Act 1882 does give us the right to terminate a member of an employment, which the police command are the employer and the complainant being the employee. No further. That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, plaintiff, you may call your first witness, please.
Yes, I would like to call Mr. Will Catchya to stand to testify.
All right, Mr. Catchya, if you don't mind standing next to the podium, don't sit at the seat,
Yes,
otherwise
just
it
over
might,
here.
we can't hear you.
And just make sure that you're speaking nice and loud as well.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, all right, Mr. Catchya, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. Please proceed.
Excellent. If it pleases the court, we would like Mr. Catchya to just make narrative testimony. So just to tell the events of what happened. If you're willing to accept this rather than question-answer format.
That should be fine. Testimony should be fine.
Yes. All right, Mr. Catchya. Please go ahead with narrative testimony regarding the events of your career at police and termination.
So I was hired on a Sunday around 7 p.m. my time. I then got inducted and was all well and good. The first few days I understood I was very active a lot, so I was seeing everyone all the time. I obviously got under some person's skin. I understand that's natural. It's gonna happen. You can't like everyone. But I think I was a pretty good officer. I was very, very adamant on asking questions, making sure I was doing everything right from asking questions to making my reports. I spent a lot of time doing my research and making sure I was doing everything right. I made sure to ask officers if that was the right thing I did. I got told a lot of the time I was. I made sure my pursuits were very well. In my eyes, I was very good with my pursuits. My reports were also very good. I spent countless countless minutes and hours writing my reports to make sure they were good in case they went to court. So I think I did a very good job with that. I was mid-report when I got fired. My head popped, I flew back in, and then I got terminated for apparently a few reasons, which I don't believe were all true.
Do you mind expanding on what you were told in termination meeting, Mr. Catchya?
So I was told in the termination meeting, one of the reasons was my spacing in a pursuit. While I was a cadet, I got complimented many times about my spacing, how I let the officers make sure they were in
Objection, hearsay,
lead.
Your Honor. He can't testify to what he was told.
I believe he can testify as what he was told because he was told it. So, overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I was told by the officer cannot make it in tonight due to just the airport queue. So they weren't able to make it tonight, but they have told me when I did a ride along with them that they did like how I was doing my spacings well and giving officers a chance to gain their lead back, even if they spun out or anything. I thought I did really good with the spacing. I never had any problems. I never actually got told off, except for once when my head did pop going through a pursuit. I was also fired due to me having complaints. I never got told about any of these complaints. I've never been told about any of the complaints that were made about me. They've frankly just made about me, but never brought up again. And there was also apparently one other reason. When I was a cadet, I apparently was the scene command for a bank. I've apparently left in a car to go get fuel for the car and then come back and resume scene command as a cadet. Cadets aren't allowed to go out by themselves, drive a vehicle by themselves. So I don't think that was all true as well. Yes, thank you.
Is there anything else you wish to bring to the court's attention in relation to the conduct of Mr. Steele or the other cowboy hat officer who's standing there?
I think they've done pretty good. Obviously, they have their favorites in the police force. I did have a little bit of a clash with one of the officers.
Objection, speculation.
He's testifying that he had the clash. How is that speculation?
No, the favoritism part.
Yes, I'll sustain that one. Please rephrase your statements if you can.
I understand people are friends in the police force. I understand that one of these friendships were with TT and Barry. I did have a clash with Barry one night. I personally don't have any issues with him, but he has issues with me. He was off duty one time with Mo Powers, and then Mo Powers getting chased. I left with another officer as I was not driving at the time. I've come back to make sure that Mo's okay and not getting not killed or anything. And then Barry has come up to me and started punching me for no reason. I have not retaliated, not punched, not cuffed, nothing while on duty. Mo told me to leave after I made sure he was okay, so I did leave. I have then been told by another officer, I forgot his name, that they are having a meeting about that incident. I was not brought into this meeting at all. They just frankly had the meeting and then never heard anything again from it.
Right, I'm just going to stop you right there. Miss Panay, who is this Barry person?
I believe Barry is an officer of the law.
All right, I'd like you to start an investigation after this court case into that officer, into the assault of Mr. Catchya.
Yes, I will do so.
All right, please continue.
Yeah, I wasn't heard of. I never got told about this incident. I obviously did not fight back or anything. Apparently someone else annoyed him that night. I understand I do get under people's nerves because I'm very frequent in this city. So I understand seeing me a lot does get annoying, but I can't really do much about that. That is just who I am. And yes.
That is all the questions I think I have for Mr. Catchya.
All right, thank you, Miss Panay. Does the defense have any questions for Mr. Catchya?
Absolutely, Your Honor. Before we start questioning, I'd like to point out that we have Officer Barry in the stand. We will be calling him, which will be able to prove. He'll be able to testify that what the complainant here said was no basis and is complete and utter lies.
All right. Do you have any questions for the plaintiff?
Absolutely. Just before I start, the complaint, you aware of what the charge of perjury are, and that if you were caught, you'd be charged with a felony?
Yes, isn't it about 20 months?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something about that. Yep.
So
I read
you
many
claim.
charges.
So could you relay what you were told regarding your termination meeting, in your own words of exactly what you said? Before?
Yeah. So what I can recall is I got terminated. I did ask a few times like what they were. They weren't allowed to specify due to confidentiality. But they said one of the reasons was the bank scene, me having complaints, and my spacing in pursuits.
So you're sure that they brought up the spacing of your pursuits in the reason for your termination?
I'm 100%
Objection, Your
positive.
Honor. Asked and answered.
I was getting
Yes.
clarification.
Sustained. Sustained. Asked and answered. Continue.
Okay. These complaints that you said that you had, you claim that you were never told about any of the details about them?
No, I haven't had a single like proper meeting with them or nothing like that. Never got written up. Never got talked. No.
Did you ever have any complaints? Obviously, you said you've got these praises, but obviously not everyone's perfect. So did you ever get any negative feedback from police officers?
Not that I've heard of. No. I definitely know like they've heard over radio saying just everyone watch their spacing, but I never got called out individually or talked to individually about that. No.
So at no point in time were you ever pulled out by a member of police command trying to call you up on any sort of problematic behavior?
No.
Okay. How would you describe your behavior and opinion of the members of public?
Like the civilians.
Yes, everyone around you. That's not police officers.
Everyone is each their own.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
I'm asking for how he views the population. It goes to way
I-
he views people.
I will allow it. However, the objection has been noted.
I think everyone's each to their own. Obviously, no, everyone's the same, and I treat everyone differently, but still fairly. I treat everyone to the point where they are just human, and everyone's just human at the end of the day, and I definitely don't favoritism anyone or dislike anyone in the way.
I'll just remind you that there's still penalty of perjury on the line for your testimony because you're under oath.
Yeah.
But will you say that you have never disrespected members of the public, acting like you were better than them because of the badge you wore on your uniform?
Objection,
no.
Your Honor. Argumentative. He's clearly trying to cause
I'm
my
asking him.
client some grief here.
It is.
I
That
disagree,
is.
Your
Framing
Honor.
of the question is very
I can
harsh.
refrain if it needs.
Please,
Your Honor.
please rephrase that question if you don't mind.
Have you ever, in your duty as an officer, looked down on a member of the public and disrespected them due to the fact that they are not a police member?
No, everyone's each to their own. Everyone comes into the city, brand new slate, and I treat them with a brand new slate.
Do you ever have banter? Have you ever had banter with fellow officers where there's a little bit of antagonizing?
Can you please rephrase that?
Have you ever had any interactions with police where you're having a bit of banter and it's more like antagonizing?
Objection, Your Honor. Again, the phrasing of the question here is not great.
What's wrong with the question, Your Honor? I don't see anything wrong. Must
Use
be
your own bloody
antagonizing.
witnesses to testify as to whether or not they perceive it as
Yes, that is
antagonizing.
sustained.
I'm asking my client.
So you've never antagonized a fellow member of the police force?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do I answer?
No.
So I'm new to this. Okay,
No, you do not answer. He will ask you a different question.
thank you.
Give me a moment, Your Honor.
That's all right.
Have you at any point carried police equipment whilst off duty?
No, I made sure of that, and no, I've been brought up on it by Mo while I was off duty. Mo Powers, he is a fellow officer. I was off duty. I went to the diner. I think it's called Johnny's Diner. He did ask to see my pockets. I thought he was trying to do other things just as friendly banter. My head popped. I flew back in, and he thought I did carry police equipment on me. He searched me and saw that I had no equipment on me, and that is it. He apologized and said sorry, but no, I've never once carried police equipment off duty.
Have you ever accidentally or intentionally rammed a police car while another police car while you're driving or pursuing?
No, not intentionally. No,
Oh, I said accidentally or intentionally.
I might have accidentally. I do not recall, but definitely not intentionally. It might have been accidentally due to my head, but definitely not intentionally.
Have you been given any tips or suggestions, feedback by police, by members of police, FTOs, sort of thing?
I did have one officer come and talk to me and just, as I got off solo cadet, he just said, make sure I'm good to the public, make sure I treat everyone with respect. We don't have the W cop mentality. We have to, I'm trying to remember the word. I forgot the word, but he just said, don't have that W cop mentality and treat everyone each their own.
Mr. Jacobs, I just have to make you aware you are coming up to your 10-minute time break.
Have you ever antagonized a member of the public?
Member of the public meaning a civilian?
Yes.
No, not that I can recall.
Okay, no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may take your seat. Your second witness, please, Miss Benoit.
Yes, I would like to call Mr. Luttrell to the stand.
Mr. Luttrell, if you don't mind standing next to the plaintiff. And do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please proceed.
Mr. Luttrell, can you please advise the court of your interactions with this gentleman as an officer?
Yeah, I've had a few interactions with Mr. Will. Pulled me over a couple of times, one for speeding and one for, I think, a U-turn. Not sure. He didn't book me, just gave me a warning when I had an interaction with him. He was, one of the most fine officers I've ever come across. Just beautiful manners, beautiful everything. Had a pursuit with him one time, didn't get caught. He did everything by the book, or what I've heard is the book. Kept his space really well. Did get too close, so when I braked, still could turn without getting hit. That's the only times that I've come into interactions with Mr. Catchya.
Has Mr. Catchya ever antagonized you or been negative towards you?
No, absolutely not.
No further questions.
All right, thank you. Defense, Mr. Jacobs, do you have any questions for the witness?
What's your name? Could you please remind me what your name is again?
Mr. Luttrell Luciano, mate.
Mr. Luciano. How many interactions again did you have with the complainant here?
No, just 3.
And 3 was enough for you to determine that he was a very respectful individual?
Absolutely.
Have you any other experiences with other police officers other than the complainant?
Just when I've been here?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
How many other interactions?
Couldn't tell you. Nice guy. I like a bit of communication, so I got to speak to a few officers every now and then.
Have you been arrested or had an actual interaction regarding a crime from other officers?
I have, yes.
How many?
2, I believe.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Luciano. If you don't mind returning to the gallery. Miss Benoit, do you have any other witnesses, or is that your 2?
No, that is my 2 witnesses. I will hand to defense.
Thank you. Mr. Jacobs, please call your first witness.
We call Travis Steele to the stand.
Mr. Steele or Officer Steele, if
It's Lieutenant, thank you. Yeah.
Lieutenant, I'm just going to call everyone officers rather than rank. I can't really see the rank from here, but do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
So help you God.
Well, I don't use the "so help you God" thing in here. All right, thank you, Mr. Jacobs.
Mr. Steele, could you explain from your perspective the events that leading up to the termination, or actually the events leading up to the first incident that you had with the complainant, where you had to align him for the first time?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Can you give us in steps, lay out the first couple of complaints that were made against the officer, or ex-officer?
Okay. So my first interactions with Mr. Catchya was I inducted him. I'm the lead FTO for the LSPD. 2 days after he was inducted, he ran up to me saying, "I'm ready." And I asked him what he means by that. He goes, "I've already been ticked off on everything. I'm good to go." I go, "Yeah, good to go when I say good to go." 2 days after that, I received a complaint about Mr. Catchya, about him antagonizing a member of a local motorcycle club. I believe it was the president. The president was acting very friendly towards the officers on scene. However, Mr. Catchya was dancing, running around, and making a mockery of him due to the fact that he was wearing a motorcycle cut. 1 second.
I'm currently wearing one.
If you might have interject, Mr. Steele.
There's also another complaint forwarded to me by other officers about Mr. Catchya's attitude towards other officers, constantly mocking them because they weren't able to do other cadets. Because mocking them because they weren't able to do what he was able to do, acting as though he was better than everyone else.
What were these things that he was able to do? Apparently, if you know.
So when a cadet is brought into the LSPD, they have a checklist that they need to tick off, the basic policing principles. Mr. Catchya, well, yes, was able to complete these checklists in a fast time. Everyone learns at a different speed. Because Mr. Catchya was told he was, ready to go out by himself, he used this opportunity to, tell other cadets that he was better than them, basically.
At the first lot of complaints, did you? Is this where you terminated Mr. Catchya?
No, it was marked down in the It was noted down for all command to see. I believe we had Lieutenant Sergey. I cannot pronounce his last name. He had a word to him. Captain TT over there, he also had a word to Mr. Catchya about his attitude and behaviour. The defendant also went on multiple tour-ups with the captain and a senior officer in hoping they could, I believe the captain and senior officer were hoping they could adjust his attitude so he could become a more productive and better police officer to civilians and to his colleagues.
Yeah.
I was told that within about 15-20 minutes into their shift, the Mr. Catchya asked to be dropped off back to the station because he wasn't taking the constructive criticism too well.
Mr. Steele, you said you were the lead FTO, correct?
Correct.
How often, or how many previous encounters have you had that resulted in termination of a solo cadet or a cadet?
Mr. Catchya is our first cadet that we've terminated.
And approximate amount of how many people have gone through the FTO program as been trained through it so far?
I couldn't give you approximate. I mean,
ballpark.
So, ballpark, probably about 30, 40.
Okay. So just one out of that was terminated.
Correct.
So when you get a complaint from an officer, what is the police general standard procedure to realign an officer to try and make sure that you can keep them? You want to try and keep them in the force and not actually just terminate them straight away, right?
Correct. So when we get a complaint about an officer from another officer, we will bring that officer into a meeting. We'll get their side of the story because there's always two sides to every story. We will bring up the complaint. We will direct them on how to conduct themselves better while on patrol. If we receive more complaints, then we'll bring them into another meeting with other command members where we'll provide constructive feedback for them. Termination, we do have a hierarchy that we go through. So it's more like, we try and guide them in a way so they don't get fired. Okay. Termination is the last thing that we want to do. We need every officer on the street. And yet this decision was not made lightly. And at the end, the police senior command, which is the chief and the commissioner, they made the final call.
Mr. Mr. Catchya testified earlier, stating that he was never told about the complaints. Was this true?
No, negative. He had 2 previous interactions with Captain TT as well as Lieutenant Sergey. Both of them pulled him up multiple times to try and correct his behaviour. Not to mention he went on 2 ups with the captain and a senior officer to try and hope their view was to try and help him with his behaviour and attitude. I just want to make the record clear, Your Honour, that he was never terminated because of his spacing or his driving. He was terminated due to the fact of his poor behaviour with and interaction with the civilians of this city, as well as his colleagues. It was sheer incompetence and disrespectful nature is why he was terminated.
Mr. Steele, is PD Command aware that they weren't required by law to actually try and help the Mr. Catchya, and they could have terminated him at any point in time?
No, we are well aware of that law.
But you guys still chose to try and realign him.
Correct.
Mr. Jacobs, you are coming up to 10 minutes.
Understood, Your Honor. Only just a few more questions. Mr. Catchya testified earlier that he's never intentionally rammed any vehicles. Have you seen otherwise?
I personally have not seen otherwise, but we do have a standard operating procedure for chasing. If a vehicle is at the back, they must remain at the back until the lead vehicles are either taken out or they disengage. It has been reported to me that Mr. Catchya would repeatedly break the SOPs by going up and passing other patrol vehicles that were in the pursuit, and it's been alleged to me that he has pitted patrol vehicles so he could be the lead vehicle.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Right, thank you. Ms. Panay, if you wish to question the witness.
Yes, I will question. I only have 2 questions. Mr. Steele, did you ever personally pull up Mr. Catchya on his behavior?
Yes, I did. I called him a cocky little arrogant shit that he's going to get himself killed.
Would you consider that talking down to Mr. Catchya?
No, I call that constructive feedback.
Yes, so just to reiterate, calling somebody cocky little shit is appropriate police behavior.
Well, when you have a cadet running up to you 2 days after they've been inducted saying they're ready to go out, I would say that's cocky, would you not?
I don't know. It's not my opinion. It is your opinion.
Yeah, and therefore my opinion as the late FTO is valid, correct?
We can agree to disagree on that one. When did you have meeting with Mr. Catchya? Was it in private room, in public? What happened?
It was in a private room
Where?
in the police station, in a private room.
What date?
I don't know, I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
No, he can't remember. Very
never-
convenient.
I don't remember the date, but I remember what was said.
Objection relevance. The date doesn't exactly matter. It was early on. He was stated earlier in the testimony.
I'll allow it.
Mr. Steele, it is your common practice to promote cadets to full officer when you have issues with him.
Like I said, it is not our policy to terminate straight off the bat. We were hoping that by promoting him to solid cadet, that promotion would realign his values and make him a better officer.
So yes, you will promote a cadet with issues.
If it's an ongoing
Objection,
issue,
Your
then no,
Honor.
we won't.
Asked and answered.
Yes, I'm going to sustain that one.
Yes, no further question.
All right, thank you. Thank you, officer. You may return to your side. Mr. Jacobs, your next witness, please, sir.
We call Captain TT.
All right.
What on that?
All right, Captain, do you promise to say the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honour.
Right, thank you. Please proceed, Mr. Jacobs.
Mr. Captain TT, Mr. Steele previously testified that you had gone with had Mr. Catchya on ride-alongs. How was his behaviour during these ride-alongs?
It wasn't great, to be honest. We attended a scene of where a suspicious package being handed over. The guy jumped in a vehicle. Will went up and had a chat to him, and then he ran the rego plate on the car, and then he said that the guy doesn't own the vehicle, so he better jump out of the vehicle and walk home. As soon as the guy jumped out of the vehicle, Will put him straight into handcuffs and arrested him without questioning him about what he was doing or anything. Just assumed that this package that he was handing over was, drugs or something. Like I believe Will's words, it's weed or coke. He's selling weed or coke, and we sort of both Alfred and I, Officer Bradford and I, questioned him how he knew it was weed or coke, and he said he just knew. Turns out it was he was returning somebody's credit card to them in the end, so we had to let this person go, and we're quite lucky that they didn't go and see a lawyer and take us to court for it. But this was a very short 3-up, only lasted about 20 minutes. After giving some constructive criticism, he demanded that he be dropped off at the back at the PD. So
what sort of constructive criticism? Like, is there any way he could have been angered or anything like that? What was the sort of criticism you gave?
No, just about speaking on the radio. So he would quite often speak in a very, I guess, a seductive kind of way, which is very unprofessional and immature for giving radio comms in a pursuit. I believe Mr. Bradford gave him, it was some sort of criticism regarding how he speaks on the radio. And he just saw red as soon as that was given to him and demanded to be dropped off at the PD.
So you're saying that Mr. Catchya actually detained this person without reasonable suspicion?
Correct.
Is it standard operating procedure to arrest without any reasonable suspicion and as soon as they get out of a vehicle in a traffic stop?
Absolutely not, and that's why immediately we pulled Will back from the situation, took the handcuffs off the guy, and just made sure that he was okay, and let him go away, and just kept his fingers crossed that he didn't take a civil lawsuit out on us.
Have you personally received any feedback or reports regarding Mr. Catchya?
Multiple. The reason that we took Mr. Catchya out that night was from multiple people telling us that we need to take him out and try and straighten him out a bit. Honestly, I could probably get 3/4 of the PD here testify. I mean, if you look behind you, there's quite a few members of the PD, and I'm pretty sure any one of them would be able to tell you a story about Will.
So it'd be unlikely that what Mr. Catchya said regarding police complimenting him is unlikely.
It would be unlikely. I mean, there could be somebody that said something at some stage.
Speculation. I would like that struck from record.
Yes, sustained. Please rephrase.
I'll just move on from that question, Your Honor.
Yeah, don't worry.
Captain TT, how many complaints roughly have you received regarding Mr. Catchya?
There would have
Personally,
been, over a dozen. I mean, there would have been complaints from over 10 different people, and probably 15 plus complaints. There was only about 6 that I documented for all of the command to sort of take note of, but yeah, like they were a daily thing, and that was basically the last straw. We sort of agreed, everybody sort of agreed that we're hearing stuff every day about this guy, so enough's enough. We've got to pull the band-aid off and move on.
Is there any reason for you to believe that these reports were corroborated and collusion, and that they were trying to out Mr. Catchya, or were they?
No, because there were too many consistencies from too many different people. So it's sort of it all just. I mean, you can't ignore it when there's so many consistencies coming from so many different people. People that don't necessarily work together or patrol together. It's just, you can't ignore it at that point. But I mean, as we've said, we did try help well along the way. I mean, we did see some things improve, but we just didn't. It just didn't stop.
That feedback that you gave him before he requested to be dropped off at PD, did he work on any of that feedback, at least that you experienced?
Yes and no. I mean, he sort of got better on his comms, but he'd still have these moments when he'd sort of put a funny voice on, which that's it's not very helpful to officers that are in a tense pursuit, pursuing suspects.
Did you have talks yourself? Mr. Steele obviously said earlier that he had a few talks with Mr. Catchya regarding the complaints. Did you also do something similar?
Have talks with Mr. Catchya, you mean?
Yeah, regarding the complaints made against him.
Yeah. There were 2 separate occasions where I had talks with him, and also Sergeant Sergey had a chat with him. Unfortunately, he's not in the city at the moment.
So multiple members of command across string of time have spoke to him regarding complaints that that's been made against him.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you personally witnessed Mr. Catchya antagonizing any other members of the public or police officers?
Yeah, I mean, he has a bit of an ego. He'd quite often, when he was a cadet, he'd quite often pull a car out, which cadets shouldn't be doing, without, somebody that's going to be taking them out. And as soon as he saw somebody that was an FTO, he'd be on their case about taking them out. And yeah, he just, I don't know how to sort of explain it, but he just kind of puts on a different character, sort of becomes a different person. Like, there's one point it's like he had an identity crisis. Every day he'd have different color hair, and we didn't, you wouldn't recognize him from one day to the other. But he'd I can't really find the words to sort of say what I'm trying to say here.
Okay, good. Did Mr. Catchya ever specify that had any mental health problems that may have caused this identity crisis?
No, not at all.
Okay. Mr. Steele testified earlier, stating that I'm ready is what Mr. Catchya said to Mr. Steele, meaning that he had finished his checklist. Is that generally acceptable within the police force to be able to tell them that you're ready to be moving up?
No, I mean, going from a cadet to a solo cadet, it's not a promotion as such. It just means that you've completed your checklist. So it's not a promotion as such. It just means that you've passed your cadetship. But being a solo cadet, you're still a cadet at the end of the day. You've just completed. You're not really promoted until you become an officer. And Will's not the first person to get his marked off pretty quick. He's definitely not the fastest one to get him marked off, but we generally have a 7-day period that we wait to put him from cadet to solo cadet, no matter how fast they do it. And Will was in a group of about 10 people that were all 6 days cadets put up to solo cadet.
Okay. So just clarifying, being promoted, going from the rank of cadet to solo cadet is not a promotion. AK, it's not mean that he's done a good job. It just means he's finished a checklist. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that no officer, so an officer wouldn't feel like, oh, I've done really well to be promoted. To be going from a cadet to solo cadet just simply means they've finished a checklist.
I mean, they probably feel it's an achievement. I mean, it's definitely a step forward within the police, but it's like I say, it's basically an entitlement rather than you're doing a really good job, mate. Here's a promotion.
It's not a reward.
Not really. It's just yeah, you've completed your tests basically. Yeah.
With your 3-up and 2-ups with Mr. Catchya, was at any point he was the driver?
Yes, there was.
How would you describe his driving abilities?
Not terrible, but not great at the same time. He could drive okay, but when it comes to pursuits, his spacing was not very good. I got multiple complaints about him crashing into officers. Some even felt that they were pitting him so they could get to the front. Yeah, it was so not great. Definitely didn't get good feedback regarding pursuits within the general force regarding it.
But that spacing wasn't the reason for his termination.
Absolutely not. No, when he was terminated, he asked for, what the complaints had been. So we explained very clearly what the reason for his termination was. And after that, at the end, he's like, "Can I just ask what it is?" And we said, well, we can't really give you too much information. We can't breach privacy or anything like that. But we did give him, just a few of the complaints that we'd had. But that spacing was definitely not
A general idea of what the complaints were.
I'm just going to interject for a sec. You can carry that 11 minutes of Wednesday.
Yes, I was
no
trying
further
to say
questions,
10
Your Honor.
minutes.
I
But
apologize,
thank you,
Your Honor.
thank you. Right, Ms. Pillay, do you have any questions for the defense witness?
Yes, of course I do. All right, Captain. You have mentioned earlier that Mr. Catchya put on a voice that is seductive. Can you demonstrate for court what this
Your
is?
Honor, this is not necessary.
It is necessary. It is a reason for his
Objection.
termination.
I believe this is a valid line of questioning. I will allow it.
I mean, I'm not going to try and mimic it, but I can explain it. It's sort of like a girly, sexual type of voice.
So was it just
Similar-
was it not the words, or was it just the way he was talking?
The tone. No, yeah, the tone.
And you can't try and do it.
It'd be like, an ad with a sexy woman. No, I'm really not going to embarrass myself.
I'm
by
going to
trying
re-answer the
do it.
objection, Your Honor. This is not relevant.
But
The voice is not relevant.
a very seductive kind of way, if you know what I mean.
I see.
And you have also mentioned him having a personality crisis. Can you provide example of what you mean by this too?
Just to turn up to work one day with, pink hair and pink glasses, and then the next day he'd have blue hair, and like from one day to the next, we did not recognise him.
Yes, going back to my question on the seductive voice, you just mentioned it was a high-pitched girly voice. Can you...
more of a low, sultry kind of...
Your Honor, this has already been asked and answered.
kind of voice, yeah.
This is very important.
I mean, if you
Your
want to
Honor.
give me you could try a few and I'll tell you if you're hot or cold.
I'll allow it. But the objection has been noted, Mr.
I'd
Jacobs.
also have my previous objection noted as well.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I just want to know if it was like a crazy frog or like a little Miss Piggy from Muppets. I need to know.
It was kind of like a voice that wanted me to take him to the bedroom. If you catch my drift, I'm a 50-year-old man, and I'm not going to try and do that kind of voice. I just don't have it in me.
Did you think about taking Mr. Catchya to bedroom?
Objection,
I
Your Honor,
honestly did.
relevance.
Yeah, sustained.
I wish you had not sustained. I would like it on record that he thought about it.
Objection, that is not what was said.
Right.
Yes, move on,
so
please,
in
move on.
terms of checklist, Captain TT, what is the process of the signing off? Does an FTO need to sign him off? Who does
it has
that
to be
sign
an
off?
FTO to do the tick-offs. Yep. So somebody that's approved to be an FTO, and then basically the cadets can go in the station, jump on the radio, and ask for an FTO. And if any FTOs are available, they'll come and take them out for a 2-up or 3-up or whatever it may be.
Is it the practice of FTOs to sign off when there are issues with the cadets?
I mean, you can't, like, if they're doing the discipline that we're ticking off correctly, then you can't not sign it off because of some other issue, if you know what I mean.
Yes. No further questions. I just again want to note Captain TT was not able to provide imitation of voice, so we don't actually
Your Honor,
know if it was
objection. This
seductive
was
or
not
not.
necessary. I want that stricken from the record.
No, I will allow it because I allowed the questioning. Right, thank you, Miss Panay.
I want to note it on the record that I disagreed with it. For
Don't
Right.
stop crying.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Jacobs.
Stop crying.
Right, settle down back there.
I couldn't say it.
Right, Mr. Jacobs, this will be your third witness. How many do you have left?
As much as it is necessary, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going
Just a
to...
quick
Like I say, Your Honor,
interjection
every
from
single
myself.
Yes.
Are these witnesses going to be examining new
Plaintiff
grounds of
requests
argument?
cutting off time for witnesses if they are going to cry and yap.
Your Honor, she brought this case. She can deal with it.
I just have a quick question, Mr. Jacobs. Are these new witnesses going to be providing different lines of questioning with different answers that will have new relevance towards this case, or will there be more following the same?
The witnesses will be substantiating the complaints, so it won't be just hearsay. It'll be substantiating from first-person view.
So you acknowledge that they are going to be, all witnesses that you're bringing forth are going to have relatively similar arguments that will cover the same ground?
No, Your Honor, they'll be able to give more detail to the situation rather than a broader view that they were provided. They provided the command members via complaint.
That's all from me.
Am I able to call my witness?
Yes, but you're going to have less time. It's now going to be 6 minutes per witness.
If you say anything, I can't hear him.
6 minutes per witness, Mr. Jacobs. Can you hear that?
6 minutes per witness, gotcha. I call Officer Alfred to the stand.
Oh, is he all right?
Don't mind me. Don't mind me. Alfred, you okay, man? I'm good.
But, Officer Alfred, do you promise to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right, thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Jacobs. 6 minutes.
I can't hear him. He is quiet little mouse man.
Yes,
Apologies,
make
Your
sure
Honor.
make sure you're
Apologies, Your
yelling.
Honor.
Make sure you're yelling.
Is you able to hear me now?
Oh,
please?
yes, I think everyone can hear you.
Have you had previous experiences with Mr. Mr. Catchya?
Yes, I have. Yep.
Also, Your Honor, I'd like to point out the fact that the complainant is sitting on his phone during the court.
Well, that's his
think-
choice if he wishes to use his phone.
Okay.
I've seen some officers back there using their phone as well. I
They're
didn't
not
pull them
sitting
up
in
on
the
it.
They're sitting in the gallery.
Go on, continue. Get on with it.
In your experiences with Mr. Catchya, could you explain what you've observed personally?
I was just hearing complaints left, right, and center from just about every cop in
Or
the
what have you
PD,
seen
I think.
personally? I don't care about the complaints here. I want to see what you
I
said.
took him for a drive. His ego was through the roof, telling me about how in another city he was lead of highway or something and the best driver and this, that. And then his comms were pretty pathetic on radio, so I told him to use his chest a bit more and speak so people can hear him. And he flipped it and said, and I quote, "Take me back to the PD so I can fly out."
So you
And
gave him
then-
simple constructive criticism and he just completely ignored it and got angry at you.
Yeah.
Would you say, in your opinion, that what you said, the constructive criticism, was anyway hostile?
Any objection? Nah, I wouldn't say so.
Okay, yeah. Was there any other interactions that you had with Mr.
Yeah,
Catchya?
there was. I've got a message here. After he flew out that day, he flew back in about an hour later, and then I got a message from another police officer that says, and I quote, "Will Catchya is full on talking shit about you and calling you annoying to other officers."
Who was that officer, if you don't mind me asking?
That was Mo Power, that
Mo
heard that.
Power.
That's the one.
Same officer that was earlier had already had interaction with Mr. Catchya.
Yeah, he was with Barry at that one point in time, I think. I think that's what it
Was there any? Did you let him drive, or was you the driver when you were with him?
Talking about Will, I drove the
yeah,
first.
Catchya,
Yeah, I drove the first bit, and then he drove in the chase that we had. I think
Would
he
you-
was driving.
How was his spacing and general pursuit techniques during that when he was driving?
If I recall correctly, he was in primary off the bat.
Is that generally standard
Uh,
procedure for a solo cadet to be primary?
I mean, anyone can be primary, I guess, but I think his want to be the best or thinking he was the best really got him there because he was extremely keen on it.
Okay. Well, so how was was the spacing fine during the pursuit?
I mean, to the criminal, probably a little bit too close, which I may have mentioned, but I don't think it was, on that pursuit at least, terrible, but the driving itself was pretty average, if I'm honest.
He shut down your feedback, but did he still later on? Did you observe him later on actually listening to the feedback and improving his comms, like you?
He
get
didn't.
feedback?
He's seen the size of the ego on the bloke. He didn't listen to nothing. One ear out the other.
So he didn't just ignore you. He didn't just shut you down, but also didn't take any of the feedback.
No,
feedback.
he was talking shit about me 20 minutes later. Like,
What rank are you,
No.
Mr. Alfred?
senior officer.
So you've got quite a lot of experience and knowledge that'd be worth listening to for a solo cadet.
Well, I would think so. Yeah, I'd hope they'd listen.
Are you also an FTO, Mr. Alfred?
No, I'm not an FTO. No.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Pinay, do you have any questions for the officer?
I just have one question. Captain TT before mentioned seductive tone. Have you heard this term on the radio?
I may have heard it one time. I could probably imitate it for you.
Alfred could
Yes, please.
Your Honor, that's not necessary.
No, I'll do it.
It is
I'll do
very
it.
necessary.
If your witness is willing to do it, I'd like to hear it.
Look, I don't
Pussy, Alfred.
I don't know
Alfred.
about like the actual thing said, but if you wanted a slight, example of it, I feel like it'd be like, yes, Queen, yes, something like that,
Oh my god.
Nah, I'm talking the slow, sultry talk like this. But with the kind
It sounds like you're having a stroke over there.
He now can do it.
It's because he's got the
Nah,
confidence, because
it's
I'm
too
up here.
husky though. Yeah, it's too manly. He really got the like an ad.
It was,
trying to
it's
advertise
just
chocolate,
like
you know?
creepy. It's a bit creepy.
Oh, I
That's the word.
see.
Bit
Now,
unsettling.
In terms of Mr. Catchya talking about you, is it uncommon for officers to speak about one another?
I wouldn't say it's uncommon, no. No, I'm
Is
not
it-
saying that it's, but you would think that a lower ranked officer would not talk shit after one meeting with someone or one 20-minute ride along. 20 minutes.
After a
Two up,
bad
three up.
day, is it appropriate to debrief by having words with another officer about your bad day?
Depends what kind of person you are. Me personally, I just chill by myself. So I don't know. That depends on who you are as a person, really, doesn't it?
Would you say it is unreasonable for someone to try and debrief with someone else?
No, not really. But it depends what you're saying. You can't just go talk shit about someone, no. Especially someone that's trying to help you.
And no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Officer, you may return to the gallery.
Thank you.
Mr. Jacobs, your next witness, please.
Just a second, Your Honor.
Your Honor, it has been 1 second.
Yes, it's going to cut into
Your
your
Honor,
witness
we call
time.
Officer Barry, Your Honor.
All right, Officer Barry.
That's Barry B. Benson.
I believe so, Your Honor.
All right, officer, do you promise to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. All right, please proceed, Mr. Jacobs.
But Mr. Barry, could you state your full name for the record?
Berry Snack.
Oh, snack, as that is. SNAC.
Yes, CK.
Earlier, Mr. Catchya testified that you assaulted individual. Is that true?
I don't have a full recollection, but I do remember an incident with Mr. Catchya, which involved in him being on duty, ramming our car, laughing about it with another officer. While we were off duty and just trying to go to the shop to get a feeder.
So you were off duty and Mr. Catchya was ramming you?
Yes, so from what I heard coming from the car was, ha ha ha, pits approved, and then lots and lots of laughing as they were ramming our car with another unmarked individual that appeared to be a Demon Hawk.
So you said pits approved. There was no pursuit, so there was no reason for pits approved.
We were following the road rules, doing everything straight. We were just driving to the shop.
Do you know if Mr. Catchya was a solo cadet or just a regular cadet at this point?
I believe he was a cadet.
So driving by himself as a cadet?
No, there was another officer with him that was
Who was
higher
the officer?
ranking. I believe it was a Mr. Jacko.
Jacko, okay. So I was saying, Mr. Catchya said earlier that you assaulted someone. And we was there. Did you ever assault, punch another individual?
I do remember throwing a punch while being antagonized.
You weren't on duty, were you?
Negative.
Okay. Give me 2 seconds, Your Honor, so you confer with the defendant. Your Honor, can you please? The gallery keeps shouting out, being quite irritating.
All right, next person yells at the gallery, you're going to get a contempt of court.
Yeah. All right. Have you had any further negative experiences whilst off duty with Mr. Will?
Yeah, while off duty and on duty.
Could you elaborate?
So whilst I was off duty one time, I was driving to go to Night Kids to get my car done. And Mr. Catchya was on duty. He pulled me over. I complied, pulled over, everything. I said, "How are you, Will?" He was like, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" I was like, "Well, I'm an officer." And he was just being very rude and demanding with everything. I complied. I was nothing but nice to him. I did result in me just getting a warning, but it was over nothing, you know.
So you're saying he was very rude. What sort of language was he using towards you?
Like, how do you know who I am? And just being overall condescending.
Okay. And you said there was other experiences whilst you're on duty. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes, so just elaborating on an early incident that was mentioned with Mr. Mo Powers at a Johnny's Diner, in which Mr. Powers went to search Mr. Will. Later on, we were attending a call for backup, and during the drive to there, with our lights and sirens on, Mr. Catchya was in a civilian vehicle, ramming our car off the road and attempting to interfere with our abilities to go to the call.
You said Mr. Mo Powers searched him. Do you know? Were you there? Were you present at that scene?
I did see it, but I was covering the door as we were providing security for a earlier incident at Johnny's Diner.
Mr. Catchya claimed that he had no police equipment on him. Did he have any equipment on him when Mo Powers searched him?
As far as I know, he did not.
Okay.
What's your special?
Is there any further incidents that you would like to elaborate on?
No.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Right, thank you. Ms. Penay, it's your witness.
Yeah. In your experience as police officer, are people nice to you when you pull them over?
Generally, yeah.
If someone claimed to know who you are, would you be suspicious?
I'm pretty friendly with everyone. I'm very helpful throughout the community, so I wouldn't be surprised if people know who I am.
And what kind of things do you pull people over for?
Ejection, relevance.
It is relevant as to why Mr. Catchya responded in the way that he did.
Yes, I'm gonna overrule. I wish to hear the answer to that question. Overruled.
Yes.
Generally for general traffic offences, speeding, going through red lights, driving wrong side of the road, and sometimes even when their vehicle is not in sufficient condition to be on the road.
And what warning did you receive after being pulled over by Mr. Catchya?
I was just warning for slowing down a little bit. I believe I was 2 kilometers over the speed limit.
Now, in relation to actually, no further questions. Oh wait, I do have one more. Apology. In relation to the ramming incident, where the person in car was saying "Nope, it's approved," laughing, ha ha ha. You mentioned there was a Mr. Jacko in the car with Mr. Catchya.
Sorry, could you please repeat that?
The ramming incident where you're alleging Mr. Catchya vehicle that rammed you.
Yeah.
Are you confident it was Mr. Catchya who was driving and not Mr. Jacko?
No, Mr. Jacko was driving, but Mr. Will was yelling out "Pits approved" and laughing as well.
Yes, so Mr. Catchya was not actually ramming your vehicle in that circumstance.
Not in that situation, no.
Yes, no further question.
All right, thank you, officer. You may return to the gallery. Mr. Jacob, do you have any more witnesses?
Your Honor, we'd just like to enter
Don't think
the
there's anyone that
previously
could add anything.
provided the exhibits provided to Mr. McCormick, the emails regarding the police command members talking about the behaviour and the complaints of Mr. Catchya, directly relevant in this case. I think there's a series of photos that were provided to both you.
Yes, as entered. Right, does the defence rest?
Yes, we do, Your Honor.
All right, we'll have closing statements now. Please.
Your Honor, we'd like to, before closing statements, to motion to have both Latrell and Mr. Catchya tried for perjury, and I want it noted on the record for after the case due to them both lying repeatedly on the stand. I can elaborate further for Mr. Latrell as well.
All right, that has been noted. However, are you able to prove this?
Yes, Your Honor, especially with Mr. Latrell. He has not had his 3 arrests on his record, and none of them involve Mr. Catchya, which he claims he testified directly to, which is a direct perjury.
Apologies for
Your
my
Honor, the
butting.
BIA would like to point out there is a lot of sloppy police work, so it is not necessarily
Objection, Your Honor, that is
perjury.
slander.
It is the truth.
Can you please stop yelling?
I'm just going to interject for 2 seconds.
Please,
As your
yes.
government attorney, if you do believe there is a case of perjury, you're more than welcome to indict the individuals in your question and bring them forth to trial. But I don't think it's appropriate to be commenting on that at this trial.
I'd like it noted on the record, though.
As noted, as noted. All right, Ms. Panay, if you would like to start your closing arguments.
Yes, I will keep it short and sweet. In this particular circumstance, you can see that there is a statement after statement that is controversial. They're not supporting each other on the officer side. As such, we believe it is appropriate in these sorts of matters to have BIA intervene and question morally questionable decisions of police where clearly they have not done the full investigation into their own police force before terminating a member. Quite frankly, I am very disappointed. Corruption at best, incompetence at worst. In relation to Mr. Catchya, we will of course leave it to court's decision, but we would like to see him get his job back if possible. But more importantly, BIA would like expanded powers to look into morally questionable decisions of command. Yes.
Right.
That is all. I don't want to harp on the evidence. I think it speaks for itself.
All right, thank you, Ms. Panay. Mr. Jacobs, your closing arguments.
Thank you, Your Honor. During the course of this trial, we've brought many witnesses clearly identifying multiple complaints made against Mr. Catchya. We get contradictory testimonies regarding to what Mr. Catchya said regarding the fact that there was no complaints brought up to him, which has been proved by multiple members of police command. He was told by what they were. He also testified the fact that he was dismissed for one of the reasons of his spacing, which both members of command here present today testified that is not true and wouldn't be a reason for dismissal. As specified earlier, per the Civil Law Act of 1882, Part 5, employers may terminate an employee at will, which means an employer or employee can end the employment at any time for any reason, which means even if there was problematic here, the police force have the right to dismiss him with any need if they want to. But the police command chose to actually try and keep him on the force and try and make him a better officer and keep him on the force instead of just terminating him. As also testified by Mr. Steele, there's been approximately 30 plus cadets going through the FTO program, and only one has so far been terminated. I believe this speaks to the fact that it's a one-off case. The defense very much objects to these ambiguous powers the BIA has tried to propose today. The morally questionable is not something that can be easily defined. And giving the BIA those those overbearing powers could cause serious problems for the structure of the police command, as well as how police command deal with the hiring and firing, which is not a matter for BIA, nor should it ever be. The defense fully is against the rehiring of Mr. Catchya based on the complaints and the fact that they tried so hard to rehabilitate him and he would not change. We believe it'd be a detriment and to the police firing and hiring system if it was able to be reversed based on this court hearing. As testified by members of the command, roughly three quarters of the police department could be called up on the stand and testify to negative interactions they've had with Mr. Catchya. If he was so wrongly terminated, then why would there be would be so many problems with other officers who claim he never specified had any problems with him? Thank you, Your Honor. That's all.
All right, thank you. The court will be adjourned for 30 minutes to... what are you pointing up for?
I want to add one more thing, if that's all right.
Well, you can't really. You've rested.
The closing statements has been rested.
Yes.
I have not said that we rest yet, Your Honor.
That's a very good point. She didn't. All right. What is your one thing?
On the record, that Mr. Jacob is a yapper. Thank you. That is all.
Objection, Your
Right.
Honor.
Motion.
Definitely noted. Noted. Yes, I'll accept that one.
That's slander, Your Honor.
It can't be slander if it's true. All right. So court is adjourned for 30 minutes while I make my judgment.
Mr. Jacobs, mate.
Wait, Mr. Jacobs, you need to stop yapping and yelling, holy.
Why does it smell like smoke in here?
Mr. Jacobs, you're gonna
bow to the bench, Mr. Jacobs? So disrespectful. Yeah, it's very late. All right.
Very late.
All right. We're here to finalise.
My muscles, Your Honor. I apologise.
Yes. All right. We're here to finalise the case of Mr. Catchya versus the Los Santos Police Department. And what Mr. Jacobs said is correct. In the Civil Law of 1882, Part 5, employers may terminate an employee at will. I do find this to be a disgusting process within the police department when citizens of this city answer the call to service. I request the police department discuss with their IT department to create an in-house leadership-only section within their MDT to house cadet information, including training and notes, which can be shared. Shut up. Which can be shared with the BIA and Judicial Board if required. I also call on the police to introduce a strike policy with formal notification for writing for any employment issues with their staff. Now, Mr. Catchya, I believe, going from the testimonies from the officers today, that you are an energetic and excited person. I believe you're putting your best foot forward and you are keen to please your leadership. I feel that the FTO training in this case failed in your training. Your FTO leader, in his comments on the stand today, were, in my personal opinion, abusive. If this was part of your training, which is basically being ridiculed, then I am truly sorry for all the cadets. I feel that the BIA, being a separate entity to the police department, does not need any extra powers or abilities to oversee
No,
the
this is
department
bullshit.
itself. Right,
Bullshit,
order,
Your Honor.
order, or you will be held in contempt. They need, as in the BIA, need to remain separate within this city to serve as a true, non-biased entity to be called upon to handle the cases that the police cannot when it comes to one of their own. In the case of Catchya versus Los Santos Police Department, I find in favour of the Los Santos Police Department. This being said, hey, right, that would be one charge contempt of court for the
Oh,
plaintiff's
you
lawyer.
Little baby crying, make your judgment.
That's going to be 2. Anyway, I'd like to finish off by saying, this being said, it is up to the police department to rehire Mr. Catchya. It is my recommendation that they do. However, if they do, I would also suggest that Mr. Catchya starts from day 1 of his cadetship. My ruling is final. Can I get one of the officers to charge the prosecution's lawyer there with 1 contempt of court? And this case is adjourned.
Your Honor, just for clarification, you're saying you're recommending rehire, but you're not able to force the matter. Is that correct?
That is correct. I can only recommend to the police department, as I have no power to make them do anything.
Yes.
Your Honor, if Will Catchya gets hired, majority of the PD are quitting.
Your Honor, I had a question regarding the ruling.
Well, my ruling is final, so...
No. Sure. Does this bar the police department from pursuing perjury charges against the complainant?
Not at all.
Thank you. Just want to get clarification.
At the end of the day, it is a police recommendation. If senior command wishes to refuse it, he's more than...
Isn't it up to the charge of command, not senior command?
Yeah, we told Will that he was welcome to reapply in a month or 2, but I think he's burned a lot of bridges tonight.
As I said, it's up to the police department. I can't force you to do anything.
I'm glad you said it because I was ready to cite the Flynn's ruling.
What was that, sorry?
I was ready to cite Flynn's ruling if you forced your way into it.
Oh, yeah, of course. I can only recommend...
Can I get feedback on regarding my performance?
Is that
Yes, would you like to come into the back room? Yes, Mr. Steele?
We won, Travis.
Yeah.
You did win.
Oh, by the way, they're not rehiring.
Well, that's up to them, of course.
Go back on duty, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Jacobs.
Thanks, CT. I'll see you guys around.